Mr. Tolley. I am so thankful for your teachings and your writings. My question might more suitably or well be asked by a younger person, but how does one balance awareness, consciousness, presence with expansion and desires and goals and aspirations? Even at my stage in this human experience, I have aspirations and goals and desires, and I look at the intention of those and still try to be aware of the intention, but still within that I find underpinnings and weavings of egoic aspects, and so much of the expansion that we see seems to be so egoic.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. It's true that in most cases when people go about doing things, the ego is involved, and what they're looking for is a more complete sense of who they are. They're looking for more of themselves in what they do. So it's really self-seeking through what they are doing. And in all these cases, the end result, what they want to achieve, is always, when ego is involved, is always more important than the doing itself. Because you expect the future, in other words, becomes of greater importance than the doing in the present moment. And that is always the hallmark of egoic action. But very often, with certain people, there can be a mixed action. There can be egoic motivation, partly, and presence, in part also. So you can have a mixed bag of motivation. So let's come back to that in a moment. But first of all, the important thing to realize is in non-egoic doing and expansion, which is possible, and this is what is needed on the planet, for not just people to no longer take action. Action is required. Non-egoic action is action that arises out of enjoyment. So when you enjoy the doing, there's more attention in the doing than what you want to achieve through the doing. So in other words, you know where you're going, but you also know that the journey is much more important than the arriving. You also know that the step you're taking at this moment is always the most important step there is. This step, this moment. The ego doesn't know that, because the ego always disregards this moment. The ego makes this moment into an obstacle, or it makes this moment into an enemy, or at the best it makes this moment, it reduces the moment to a means to an end, but never acknowledges the fullness and the power of this moment. The ego can't do that. So it's either the three things: an enemy, people who are performing action with negativity continuously, and there are many people in the business world or government or whatever, there's a continuous negativity in what they do. They get things done, but whatever they do creates more negativity and suffering for themselves and others. So they may be efficient on their level, but they're only efficiently creating more unhappiness for themselves and others. It's karmic action, I call it sometimes. It produces more karma and more of the same. So then you have treating the present moment as an obstacle, which also the ego does, and so many people live like that. They unconsciously, always the present moment they regard as something, in whatever they do, as something they need to go beyond. So it's like, this is the present moment, and the ego always looks beyond. Okay, I need to get over this thing here. I just need to get this moment out of the way so that I can get to the next one. Because the ego promises fulfillment in the next moment. It doesn't come, because when the next moment you reach the next moment, it's the now again, which again it's an obstacle. So you can recognize the ego always, whether or not the ego is active at any moment in your life, in any action you undertake, whether it's a business venture or you want to create this or that, whether it's artistic creation, anything, is the end result considered more important than this, or is there a complete attention to the doing in the present moment, which means you enjoy the aliveness of whatever activity it is, you enjoy the doing in this moment more than where you want to get to. Which also means when an obstacle comes, and true obstacle comes into, not the structural obstacle, the mental obstacle that makes every moment into an obstacle. When you encounter a true obstacle, like say you want to build an enterprise or whatever, and of course continuously obstacles will come in the form of situations that go wrong or people who are not cooperative and so on. If you react negatively against the obstacle, then there's some form of ego, because the obstacle is preventing you from where you want to get to. If it's non-ego, the obstacle is immediately recognized and accepted for what it is, and you find a way of either circumventing it or transforming it into a positive force. Immediately you come into alignment with the isness of this moment. So when the situation goes wrong, immediately say, oh, well, how can we deal with this? No negativity, no fighting. Immediately, if it's non-egoic, immediately you accept the situation and then you go from there. There's no complaining about what other people are doing, how other people are not helping at all in this important thing, how stupid other people are, and whatever the ego does. Or it's always complaining about what people are not doing but should be doing, or situations that shouldn't have been happening at all. But all those things are signs of ego. And the signs that there's no ego involved is when you, as soon as something comes in, it's immediately accept it for what it is, and there's the option, okay, either non-resistance, you walk around it, but let's see how else we can do it. If this way doesn't work, let's see if another way works. No ego, simply a gentle turning around. So whether or not ego is involved, you know every moment by observing yourself to see what energy it is that flows into what you do. And so, ego is non-egoic creation or non-egoic doing always involves the enjoyment of whatever you're doing at the present moment. And it enjoys even when something seemingly goes wrong, and immediately say, oh, well, let's see what we can do about that. Instead of complaint, instead of fighting, instead of making something into an enemy. So there are a few people in this world who perhaps don't know why they naturally live in that. Not many, but there are a few people who are successful in this world who naturally live in that way, but they're often immediately recognized as quite exceptional. From what I've seen so far, because we don't know what the future will bring, the so-called future, Obama does, I don't see any he deals with things quite consciously as they come, not making anybody or anything into an enemy. That's a huge change that has come. And so it's a wonderful thing to see how conscious he actually consciously deals things. Now the question is, are the structures around him and all the unconscious people that he has to deal with, both in this country and other countries, Are they going to, at some point, pull him down into unconscious reactions? We don't know. We'll see. But so far, it's amazing to see somebody who is so present in dealing with things, and I don't see any ego there. Not yet. There may be remnants of ego, but maybe his wife knows about it. But not in but not in public life. So when it's quite exceptional. Everybody knows that that's very exceptional because most other people live and act very differently. So for you then, self-observation needs to be there to see the arising of any negativity means ego is there. The arising of stress means ego is there, because stress implies I need the future moment more than I want this one. I want the next moment more than I want this moment. And of course, everybody lives like that. Everybody is under stress. Well, most of the population in the Western world are either under stress or they are completely bored out of their minds. It's either one or the other. So stress is insane because it denies life. How does it deny life? It denies life by denying this moment. And it's a dreadful dysfunction. And stress is normal in this world. If you're not under stress, they think you're not doing your job. But you see how effectively somebody can do things without stress and without drama. Much more effectively, much more effectively. So, self-observation, look at am I enjoying this moment? What is my reaction when something goes wrong? Am I creating stress or is there no stress? There's all these things are, stress flows into what you do and creates more of the same. And any negativity flows into what you do and creates more of the same and infects others with it. So that's how all this unhappiness spreads, an unhappy civilization. Civilization based on unhappiness. And so whatever it is your activity is, be alert so that you know your inner state at any given time. If you are aligned with the moment, if you know where you're going, but the doing right now is more important than the arriving, even if you never arrive, it doesn't matter. In other words, even if you don't succeed in whatever your business or enterprise or may be, you're still enjoying what you're doing, and so there's no failure involved at all. If there's deep enjoyment in what you do, how can you fail? And if there's no enjoyment, then you have to look to see where the motivation actually comes from, and of course, and realize that you're in a dysfunctional state, and that realization is the beginning of freedom. So that's a wonderful thing to do for everybody to practice, and that applies to big endeavors in whatever you do in your life, or little things too, because even little things like getting from your home to your place of work, how do you do that? Is there stress involved there? Or is there acceptance and enjoyment of every moment, even sitting in the car in a traffic jam? Of course you can enjoy that. Habitually one doesn't. People are conditioned not to say this is dreadful. It's not dreadful at all, unless the mind tells you it's dreadful. Be in your body, breathe, look at the tree, the sky, the people walking. Every moment is alive with wonderful miracles of aliveness happening continuously all around you. The ego doesn't know about that. So that's, if we meet again, report back to us on how you're doing.
So
yeah.
For the youth, is what we would like to see for them, would you call it conscious expansion?
Yes, conscious expansion or conscious creation.
Okay.
so that what creates then is not anymore the ego with its needs, that is never satisfied anyway, but something within you that is the unconditioned intelligence flowing into whatever you do in this world. And then it creates. And so the motivation is then no longer desire, that's the traditional egoic motivation. The motivation is enjoyment. And enjoyment is much more powerful.